on Liberia. From Cape Mount to Cape Palmer, mountain back to Atlantic Ocean, Obomi Hills to Boakai, to educate, elevate, and promote. Yeah, focus on Liberia. For Liberia, Liberia. For Liberia, yeah. From Monday to Sunday. From Monday to Sunday. It's focus on Liberia. Talk about home affairs. Hey. In diaspora. Current affairs. Reliable information. History. Talking about culture. Politics. Education. Entertainment. Business. Sports. Advertisement. Articulation. Focus on Liberia. Focus on Liberia. Focus on Liberia. From Monday to Sunday. Focus on.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Friday Night Debate on Focus on Liberia. My name is Dennis Jar, and we are broadcasting from Atlanta, Georgia. In tonight's debate, we're going to be focusing on the president's cabinet meeting today to discuss microeconomic issues and trade issues. We will also talk about the violence against children in Liberia and what the gender ministry is doing about it. I've read reports where an 8-month-old baby was just destroyed. I don't want to even say rape. I don't have a name for it. And people are cutting fingers, burning kids' hands because of something they did. What's going on there? We'll also talk about the audit at the Ministry of Finance and Development Planning. How is Minister Gafuan doing since his return? With me to debate all this, I have Mr. Abu Boakai Dukle. Mr. Dukle, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Dennis. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. Also, FWF political analyst, Mr. Mohammed Sharif. Welcome, Comrade Sharif.
Thank you, Dennis. It's good to be here.
We want to welcome all our viewers from across the globe. This is Friday Night Debate, and we're going to be highlighting these very issues. We want you to join us, and let's talk. I want us to begin with the president's cabinet meeting. It all started with the price issue. So let's have a committee to look at why prices are high. So that committee went to work, and they have reduced the prices on certain commodities. The Minister of Commerce, I would say, whose job it is to do these things, is now on I would say price police. Is going around the country to make sure that the prices they set, people are abiding by those prices. So based on that, there was this announcement on the Executive Mansion website, stating that we're going to have a meeting to look at, these macroeconomic issues. Evans, were you able to watch that cabinet meeting?
Yeah, I saw part of it, and it was embarrassing for me. But maybe we'll get to it.
About it.
I mean, the president demeanor. He was jovial. He was, he was almost like, praising his cabinet officials as if they are doing such a great job, and he was pretty much shunning any kind of criticism, saying that people don't know what they're talking about. They're just talking. Well, the country has been rescued. I mean, a bunch of, like you said, tabata. And I felt like the president was being almost disingenuous to to really confront the issues of the country. People who are criticizing your government and telling you things that you already know to be true, but you're dismissing the rightful criticism as people just talking. This is not the first time this president has done it. Any criticism that goes towards him, he's oh, let the people talk. Let the people talk will work. He's not taking criticism seriously. And for him to be thanking those guys in that meeting as if they're all doing a great job in their respective positions was disrespectful to the Liberian people. We heard on other talk shows today, Liberian people from Liberia calling and was angry at what they saw from the president. And myself, when I watched it, I was also perplexed that he would be in such a great mood when the country is suffering. So why find why make a committee to address micro economic issues if everything is going so swimmingly well in the country? Being dishonest. I'll leave it there.
Thank you. So let's play a snippet from that. And this is just, I think the whole thing was 22 minutes in total, including everybody else, the prayer and everything. So I want to think that I couldn't, based on what I heard, I couldn't say this was the macroeconomic and trade meeting they were talking about. Maybe they have something else. But let's take a look at what was on display. Maybe based on that we can begin to talk.
No audio. We're not hearing it.
You're not hearing it?
No, there's no audio, Dennis.
Oh,
Maybe audio on your computer.
All right. But basically, the president, lauded his cabinet minister and said, well, the people are going to insult you when you do the right thing, and on and on and on. So I was not sure whether I was in the meeting that was advertised. But Mr. Dukley, what's your take on what Evan said based on what the president said?
Well, Dennis, when I saw the clip, it was obvious that the whole intention was it was made for TV. And that wasn't hidden in everything that was said and done. And so you could just tell that this whole setup is trying to sort of give the impression on television as if they are doing something. But like you said rightly, you saw almost, I don't know if it's 20 minutes or how many minutes, almost half of the audio part of it that we heard had absolutely nothing to do with, the matter they were there to discuss. Instead, each member was being told how great they are doing, and you just need to do the Liberian people work and all that. And I think they were more interested in the antics of it than the substance of what they were there to discuss. But look, I'm not an economist, but look, even the basis of economics, when you look at the way the market functions, if you look at the way these things are determined, it's just obvious to me that this is a slippery slope. That they are just the whole exercise is not something that is sustainable, especially when this wasn't planned. And when I say planned, there were not contingency plans put in place just in case. Because look, no matter how they try to sugarcoat it to you and myself and anybody else, this is it's got to do with some subsidy, some form of subsidy coming from the government. Now, where will the government get this money from to subsidize this? Now, how many commodities are they going to price control? This is one of the things that really exhibit and show to the world how amateurish this government is functioning. I mean, when the budget is set, everything in the budget is projection. And now there are unforeseen circumstances that may come around that will hinder given projection. Now, how are they accounting for all of that? And in fact, in my opinion, I don't think this is even deserve having a committee. What is the Ministry of Commerce doing in all of this? I think this is something that's supposed to be handled at the Ministry of Commerce and all the experts that are in that ministry. Since when the president is the one who handle these things. But again, it speaks to the way how the government function. It speaks to the amateur nature of this government and their inability to grasp the difficulties that the Liberian people are facing, and forgetting about the basics that they need to do to deal with this price control. And again, I don't think they are going about it the right way. And in the end, this is all going to backfire on the economy, and it's just going to exacerbate the already difficult economic situation that we are experiencing.
Mr. Ja, before Mr. Sharif coming, just 10 seconds. One of the most ridiculous thing in that whole thing was that our vice president was there taking note or pretending to be taking notes. I mean, this is What are you doing? He's so performative. He's acting like he's listening so keenly, and he wants to jot down things. That's why you have aides. The aides are there to take notes and summarize the meeting to you, and you are there to give your input as the vice president of the Republic of Liberia. And the guy was there acting like he's scribbling on a copybook, sitting right next to the president, looking at the president's secretary. It was embarrassing. It really was.
It's just sad.
Let's welcome Dr. Jones Otavius Malley. Oh. Dr. Malley, welcome. You've been on vacation. Did you?
Yeah. At time you need to take a break, you know.
All right. Welcome.
And I want to say hi to all my fellow panelists. Mr. Sharif, long time no see.
It's not seeing, Doctor.
How you doing, Dr. Jones?
No, not too bad.
Thank you. So, Mr. Sharif, and let me, before we even get into the idea of the price, control, what you make of the optics of what we saw and what the president was saying.
Yeah, first, welcome back, Dr. Malley. I was muted there for a second, so I wasn't able to quickly respond to you. But yes, the president has the right to, express gratitude to his cabinet, to be optimistic. I was, the expectation coming in for this administration for me was, certain good things that I saw that hasn't been around, rural development, for example. And when you talk about rural development, to me, I need roads and stuff like that. When you talk about development, some of the development initiatives, I need to see transportation improved, for example. I need to see the rule of law implemented to the fullest, because we have unsolved grievances, dating back 2 decades. And so these things have not been resolved. And so my expectation for this administration coming in was that these things were going to be resolved. 1 year into this administration now, this administration is lagging behind. Is lagging behind in all these areas that I just touched upon. The president said that look, I don't these untrained people that are talking like this, meaning, people in the media and all these different critics, and people in the street, the average people. He said these untrained people are untrained and they don't know what they're talking about, something along those lines. I don't watch, I'm not on Facebook. I don't watch Facebook according to the president. But then he went on to cite, examples of a woman that he saw on social media praising his policy, his rural development policy. He went on to quote Zoe Penham. So, Mr. President, you're watching. You just don't want to acknowledge, okay? So don't let's not get fooled by this. They're watching.
Let's try this again.
But on a serious note,
you can hear this now?
Yeah, we hear him.
And I don't normally say on Edith that I'm very grateful to all of you for the services you render. And when you talk about public service, this is truly what you're doing. You receive insults when you even do the right thing. But that's the way it goes. Once you leave the job, they will not insult you, but not necessarily for what they think you are, but that's the human beings. That's who we are, especially the country that we're in. Reckless talking, disrespect. People are not trained and they speak any kind of way. Some of them don't even know what they're talking about. But if you say you're not going to take that, you just leave public office.
All right. That is enough. Jimmy, that's how the president described his country.
Yeah, so I was can I end my thought there?
Yes, please, sorry.
Okay, so no, we are trained. A lot of us are trained. I can't see anyone on the screen right now. Any of my colleagues that's sitting here that's not trained. That's not an expert on Liberia.
Yeah, I'm not trained. I'm not trained.
So everybody on here right now, these people are experts on Liberia. So what are you talking about, Mr. President? So no, I don't agree with that. And then Elvis said something very profound, and the seriousness of the moment has to call for a serious effort on the part of the administration. The administration's policy, as I said last night, and someone was trying to, counter this to say, what are you talking about? One of the things that has to be included, one of the mechanisms that has to be included is that, when you talk about food production, you want to make sure that the Ministry of Agriculture is central to this. You want to make sure that the College of Agriculture at the University of Liberia is central to this. You want to make sure that the superintendents in the various counties, the chiefs, and township commissioners, and all these different people in the rural areas are part and parcel of any decision-making process to drive food growth, to drive food independence in the country. That is one of the things that's part of this. Also, roads. If you don't have roads leading to the rural areas, many areas that I know of, people cannot bring their farm products to the market. People cannot travel easily. So these things have to be central to the president's policy, and they're not even discussed. What else has to be central is the communication. I mean, viewing platforms like this is very informative. Most Liberian platforms now, gave you good analysis. They may not be the best out there, but most will touch on things that are critical to the development of Liberia. So yes, the president needs to have somebody who's monitoring these platforms, their social media outlook. It's not a good thing to say, I don't follow social media. You are the president. You have to be informed. Your Minister of Information is already not informed. He has to be informed. Your Director General, LBS, is not informed. He has to be informed. All these people have to be informed so that they can inform you to make a decision. This is important. These are critical issues.
Yeah, Mira, Dennis.
Dr. Mali, the president also took jab at it. He said the people that are doing it, this is and I'm paraphrasing, people who didn't do what you are doing now. And definitely you can tell that's the previous government. They didn't do it, so you are doing it now, they're jealous.
Well, at least we forget every government has got its own modus operandi that cannot be decided even by a stranger. And it's also customary when the president meeting his cabinet, by and large, he has to throw in some commendation in there. But it's like when you are not in the office, you see things from a different perspective. When you are in the office, you become like a different political animal. So most of the thing His Excellency is even capitalizing on now, he tried to praise his cabinet. I think it's customary with all government where they meet, and sometimes the president will have to congratulate his people. Well, from my perspective, probably they might be he might have been taking the wrong direction, but it's customary. I cannot dictate to that. Probably in his own judgment, he is fulfilling what he thinks he should fulfill as a president, by congratulating his lieutenants, you see. But the question now is, congratulating them for what? So this now will take us to the next level. You see, have they done an excellent job since they won the election? Then they were now public opinion will kick in. Then people will start using different spectacle to see things from different viewpoint. So I think the president customarily, he was just doing what presidents do.
Thank you. Jimmy, let me bring you in here. When we look at the announcement on the eMansion website or Facebook page, it said the meeting was going to focus on trade, microeconomic and trade issues. Let me put that on the screen for those who are, who did. Even if you didn't go to Monrovia College like me, you did economics somewhere. Focus on microeconomics and trade issues. Should the government be focusing on the MI or the MA, Jimmy?
Excellent question. I love it. I love it. And Dr. Jones, we're glad to have you here as well.
Thank you.
The micro and the macro. The macro is the general. The micro is specific. But before you get to trade, the little bit of economics I know, proud Luke Centenary graduate, you have to have production. What are you producing to trade? So trade is good, but what are they looking for to trade? If they've identified that trade is something that they need to get to, our neighbors produce very much the same things we produce. When we studied this thing, we noticed that it was always a vertical trade. We give our resources to the Westerners, and they in turn sell us their finished products. So what is the nature of this trade that they're trying to introduce? Put a plan on board that we can identify, and then we can all work toward it. And that's what I see. It's like they're still finding their way to a concrete plan, where it is itemized stage by stage by stage what the plan is to do, that we can rally around that and support it. I remember back in the day when Talbot and they were saying we're going to reach self-sufficiency. And they had a marked out plan how they were going to reach self-sufficiency. I think it was by 1980. Oh, you'll correct me if I'm wrong. Okay, I stand to be corrected. But they had a plan. So you come up with a plan. I think right now they're still in the formulative process. They're still coming up with stuff that they're trying to figure out. Or where are we in agriculture production? I look at the budget. The budget doesn't support a specific strategy. We're now not getting loans. Okay. Before, the strategy was to have aid contribute significantly to agriculture production. That is cut off today. So what's the plan now? So I think in their defense, they're still formulating a plan. But just like one of the panelists say, that is why you have your agriculture minister. That's why you have your commerce minister. That's why you have your finance and planning minister. You have these people who are supposed to be experts. They put together a team. You assemble a team and you come up with a plan. And all the president does, review the plan and say, yes, sanction it. And then you introduce it to the nation. All of us rally around it and we support the plan. But I don't see that yet. And about a year and a half, I'm going on 2 years into the administration. This is an urgent matter. They are dealing with something that we, our government, did not have to deal with. Alien government did not have to deal with. And that's the suspension of aid, which is good because it offers an opportunity for us to be self-sufficient. And if you accomplish that, then you have accomplished what other administrations have not done. But it will require a strategy. It will require a plan that how we're going to get there. And I don't think we have a plan as yet. I think it's still in the formulation.
Thank you. Victor, let me come to you with that same micro and macroeconomics, right? I know we all understand this, this basically. So what we do, I think our production is around 30% of the things in the country. 70% of that we get from outside. So if you really want to discuss prices, like they are saying, I mean, we can leave out the supply side, right? Jimmy, you did economics, right? You can leave out the supply side. So if you are only talking microeconomic issues, you may not address the price issue because 70% of what we get come from outside, and 90% of that, according to our sources, come from India. So how can we talk about pricing if we are not addressing imports?
Was that for Jimmy or for me?
For you, Nawe, you're the teacher.
But why you keep calling Jimmy when you're talking to me? Man is different. I'm different.
No, my man, with the scene. What happened?
but it's good to be with you guys. Quite frankly, I think Jimmy made a very good point there. And maybe you can argue that because the president knows we are not in the production business, therefore we can talk micro. I think Jimmy really laid it out because we only want supply. So maybe that's why we're talking micro. I'm not an economist. I'm a chemist by training, so that's not really my forte. But the little that we all know, I think when the president is talking, macro issues, I believe that's what the e-marshal announced. I think in this case, I will argue that he was right. He cannot talk the big issues when we're not doing the big issues such as production. And so I think he probably meant.
What I meant is we are importing, right? So
yes.
The things that we are buying from other people, if those people are not producing, we don't have anything. If the prices there go high, our prices here go high also.
Correct. And so if we're looking at how those things affect our people, that's on the micro level. I believe that's the point Jimmy is making, which I'm also agreeing with. If we want to go micro, which is an MA, then we're talking about our production capacity and that kind of thing. But if we're talking about supply from the overseas to our people, I will argue that I think this imagine they had it right. But if we're going to argue that we need to go beyond that, then that's an entirely different argument we can make. So I mean, that's how I understand that.
Thank you. Let me go to the champ's mother, Glendy. Glendy, when you saw and all that we saw was what we witnessed, right? So we don't know whether there was something else. But when you hear that the president is convening a cabinet meeting to talk about trade and macroeconomic issues, what do you think will be some of the things on the table?
Hello, everybody. It's good to be here. Been away for a bit, but I'm still around. Still FOL in the highest of esteem. So it's good to be here tonight. But I would think that they will look at 2024 and see what they've done well in MA and see how they can improve MI. And so I think some of the things could be they could look at their mining, they could look at rubber, they could look at agricultural stuff. What can we do to become self-sufficient in? What are the areas that we've improved? How have we increased what we've had in the 1.5 years that we've been here? I think I was reading the other day that mining, they were able to increase their income in the mining in Liberia. So I think they will look at, when you look at trade, is there anything that we can become self-sufficient in to be able to stop what we're getting from outside? So those are the things I would look to hear them talk about agriculture, talk about the gold and diamond business, talk about trade, talk about outsourcing to other countries and bringing other countries in. Those are some of the things I would think, what is it that we're doing that has had some improvement, and what is it that we need to do to be able to get to where we're going. That's what I would think that they would do. I mean, and also whatever they're deciding to do, how are they going to be able to sustain it? If you go and you stop rice importers now from coming, will Liberia be able to be self-sufficient in rice? So those are some of the things I would think. It's not like we have nothing to do or nothing to discuss. Our country is rich. We just don't have proper managers to be able to explore those things to do better. But I think they can discuss all of those things and see where they can head from. That's what I will be looking at when it comes to that.
Right. And from what we, if we look at what, like you said, what are we doing well comparative advantage? What is it that we can do well? What is it that we are producing so we can trade our surplus with other people? But it appears that the president was talking about, how Joe Penno say my car, I drive from here and no mud in my car. I wonder if there was any other thing outside of what we saw. I hope
too. I hope there was. I mean, we just saw snippets of what the meeting was about, but I would hope that there were other things that was said in the meeting, because there's so much going on in our country that needs to be taken seriously. So I don't think, I think the part of it, the fact that we're rude, we're not trained, we can talk all the other things, I think that was just an intro to the conversation.
To what extent does that reflect on the country? If the president tell us, say, hey, people here, they can just talk, they're not trained, they're rude, they don't know what they're talking about. This is the president of the country.
But is he lying? He's not.
No, it's not true.
He's not lying.
Okay.
You may not encounter that. A lot of people encounter some of those.
Right. He may be talking about somebody specifically. Okay. And to be honest, price control falls on the micro, because we're talking about individual markets and stuff like that. So price control does fall on the micro. But what we're looking at is, what is the strategy here? Price control is not a strategy. It can affect trade balances, because you notice you talk about trade balances. So if you're going to begin to have price control, we're talking about how it might adversely or affect our trading with our partners, because now we will either reduce supply, like somebody mentioned here, or we will have to provide subsidy. So it's really not clear what the strategy is here, and we're all looking to see that.
Right. And talking about strategy, let me give you an example. Maybe this is a bad example, but let me share with you when the president and team went to Japan. Oh.
Wow.
Yes, sorry. Let me do that again.
Why are you doing that, Dennis? Let me just.
No, please don't do that again. It's too cringy to even watch. John, you doing this to torture us. Still, it's not a Marie anymore. I think a Marie anymore.
You see, if we had
the call that one, Jimmy is talking about strategy. Mohammed, this is pocketed diplomacy.
Yeah,
we're talking about strategy. So this is an example, and I like the dancing. I think that was
So Jimmy, I'll give the 5 minutes of credit. I mean, she can dance. She can dance.
Are we selling culture now for what? For development?
Thank you, Morris. What they should have done for that trip to Japan, we should have had a display showing the kind of goods and stuff we have in Liberia to increase our trade. That's what other countries did. Did we have a display there of what we produce and what we can trade? So I always say, are we planning? Are we just going? You know, and you have your experts, they're supposed to be guiding the administration. So I don't know what's going on.
Thank you.
Well, what is going on is that our official look at these things as the junket. They
So
want to go there. They want to be
part
seen
of the
with others.
delegation?
Say that again, Victor.
Sorry, Duke. I was asking whether that troop was that part of the delegation. I guess the performers.
I would think so.
Yeah.
Why? What are you trading with people going there to sing? They will let your singing, your dancing, and get $300 million for development? I don't get it.
No, but that's part of tourism. That's part of culture, right? We can use that to get people to like our culture. Let me welcome Pastor Salif. Pastor Salif, we're leaving the topic now with the today, the President's Cabinet meeting. I don't know if you had a chance to watch it. We're going to our next topic, but let me give you a minute to get your reaction.
Yeah, thank you, Dennis, for the show tonight, and to all the other panelists and our viewers wherever you join it from. I mean, I thought about the cabinet meetings, and I mean, honestly, if that is a first step, then it's welcome. It's laudable. If that's the first step the president's taking, you know, to empower Liberian citizens through, you know, microfinancing, that is good. But if that is an end in itself, then that's a problem, because ministers are all political appointees. So all of them are not experts in their fields. And when it comes to microfinancing, I don't think all the ministers in the government are, you know, experts on microfinancing. So a responsible government, you want to bring together a diverse group of leaders, you know, in the economy, bankers, private sector, you know, participation, bring in those professionals from the private sector, bring in the bankers, bring in, you know, maybe educators on economics and microfinancing, and say, hey, this is what I'm thinking. This is, I think, how we can empower our people. If we're not doing that, then that's a problem. If it's just, hey, let me talk to my ministers. How many of the ministers there are experts in microfinancing? So I will first applaud the steps, the gesture, I mean, as a first step. But if it's not going to go beyond that, then it will be a problem. There gotta be a private sector participation in the growth and sustainable growth and development of Liberia's economy. So it cannot end with just the ministers. He should widen the dragnet and bring in more professionals from other fields. So that from that field, I mean, specifically, so that we can think about ways of empowering our people. And let me say this last. One person can make a difference in the government. In Nigeria was a failed economy. During the second term of Obasanjo, he appointed one person that changed like Nigeria's trajectory. Today, Nigeria is, you know, leading economy in Africa. He appointed this guy, I think Charles Soludo, to this Nigeria Central Bank as the central bank governor in his second term. And Charles Soludo came, he turned Nigeria economy around. Today, at that time, South Africa was Africa's leading economy. Today, through the expertise and tenacity and vision of Charles Soludo as the central bank governor at the time, Nigeria's completely changed. And look at Nigeria's economy today. So one person can make a difference. That's why I thought the appointment of Gafuan as finance minister at this time, I thought it was a missed opportunity. I thought it was wrong. Liberia got lots of professionals around the world. You know, Charles Soludo was not even in Nigeria at the time. Obasanjo had to source him and bring him in, you know, to come and help. He also brought in, for the education, he brought in, and the banking sector, he brought in different people like Nkosi Nkonji Iweala. She was at the World Bank at the time, and brought in different people. Obasanjo did that in his second term to help the government. When it comes to Liberia, it's like, you know what? We will just use all the old cronies. We'll just use all the old crows. We just recycle them. And then we believe we're trying to make progress. We're not making progress. At this time in Liberia's existence and economy, Gafuan was not the best choice.
Thank you. And do you believe this meeting was productive? Like the president, chairing this meeting to discuss trade? Mr. Sherry, I want you to end on that.
Yeah, I don't particularly think it was. He was. I mean, he sounded a populist. Taking a populist tone. Lambasting. The public, lambasting businesses, business leaders, importers. He said that these people are in it for themselves. Of course, they're in it for themselves. Of course, they're in it for profit. So, what is the government's response? What is the government's policy? Are we going to continue to do business as usual? I didn't hear any radical transformation. That's what needs to happen. Whatever happens to the discussion or the discourse on mechanized farming, and I would throw in something that a lot of people listening would not like, is that the government needs to change this whole idea of dishing out money maybe to a few farmers thinking that that's going to work. Is not going to work. This has to now be all hands on deck from the government. You want to employ tens of thousands of people if you want to create an opportunity for people to get a job, to work in agriculture. You have to incentivize that, all over the rural areas. There has to be a radical reform. So when you're talking around those issues, then you're serious. But if you're still going by the same old playbook, post 1980 playbook, you're not going to succeed. Or let's say post 79, you're not going to succeed that way. There's no way. It's the same playbook. Okay, we're going to import. We're going to subsidize the import. Government is subsidizing to feed the Liberian people, and government is already subsidizing education. Government is subsidizing a lot, and so that's a problem already.
Thank you.
Mr. Jeremy, just
I started watching this movie since I knew myself under President Doe, right? All the time, this meeting about prices, price control, and all these things happen, and still we are doing the same thing. The next thing I want to go to is the violence against children. And I put, if you're watching, please click on any of those things that I put there in the comments to see the news. I mean, one story says the General Minister decries surge in violence against children, urges justice and stronger community protection. In this one, I think the children, I think they burn their hands for doing what? So if you, here's the story. That's the gender ministry to say, hey, there's a violence against children here. Also, there's another story that a 23-year-old man arrested for raping 8-month-old baby in Nimba County. Another story reads that husband and wife arrested for allegedly cutting girls' fingers over toddler incident. Demanding the baby, you do something that will cut your finger. Dr. Mali, these things are in the news, and they have not stopped. We've seen reports, but sometimes they go down or they're not reported. So when I read those three stories, I'm like, what's going on here? And what is the government doing? Gender Ministry said there's a surge in the violence against children, and this is. Dr. Mali, let me hear you. Are you reading those stories too, or is just me going finding some stuff here?
Yeah, I think you are on top of your game. But I think these are some of the ramifications you derived when you have a war and the actors refuse, or the politician refuse to discipline the war. And so this degenerates into what I would classify as culture of impunity, which has become habitual now in our society, like something normal, you see. And this is a very dangerous precedent. But again, I'm taken aback when UNICEF, one of the arms of the United Nations, said in one of their sector report that we have 2 million children under the age 18 in Liberia, which constitute 41.5% of our total population. So my question now is, the Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Protection was put into perspective, I don't know for what, because if you're using the term children in your acronym, that means it's a serious business, you see. But this even took me further to an act to establish Children Law of Liberia 2011. This 64-page document, I don't know what this document is all about, with the proliferation of domestic violence against children in that country. And even the deputy minister for gender, she's an Anthony. And it's like, I've been wondering, between those cases and persecution, what is happening between there? What is really going on? But again, I was forced to come to a place that called the objective of the law, which is also about protection, protecting children. So my question now is, why people are not being persecuted for this? But my research further took me into another area, that there's the issue of common law in Liberia that is even affecting some of the things that are going on in that country. Because if a judge will make a decision or take a decision based on his own understanding or based on his own volition, then applying statute to punish a particular case, that's a problem. I think this is where some of these things are not being persecuted in Liberia.
Thank you. So let me come to you, Elvis. The case with the girl's finger, they said, the story says they were playing with the toddler and the toddler fell. That's why they brought, and this particular guy, 7-year-old, was brought from what we call the interior to live with the aunt.
Go ahead.
And then we have the 23-year-old man raping 8-month baby and say he has this, he's a sexual predator. He's been doing this. And now we have, for little crimes, not crimes, little acts. People, you cut somebody's finger or put fire on it. And this is like, bro, we're talking about, Elvis.
I'll give you a personal story. A similar thing like that happened to me actually in Liberia. My aunt had a baby. I was a kid and I was like 6 or maybe 5 or 6 years old. And this is like one of my first cousins, I've ever had. So I was eating plantain. I tried to feed the baby some plantain, but I guess the plantain was too hot, and the baby started crying. They asked me what happened, and I was trying to give the baby some plantain. And my other auntie put a cookstone. She put a hot cookstone on the fire, and heated the cookstone and started beating me with the cookstone. Right now, I got a big mark on my thigh here from the soda that cookstone left. My dad almost killed her. My entire family, because I was spending time with my mother's family in GSA Road in Painesville from Congatine. My father came there. It was almost going to be a terrible thing. So I'm just telling you that people think that when another child hurt another, a younger child, sometimes they think it's witchcraft. They think they trying to kill the child, sacrifice the child. and they go to the extreme to try to, beat that child and cause harm to that child. So I'm using this personal story to tell you that it's almost, similar to what this person was doing. They probably thought this, because everybody from the interior, they assume is in some kind of witch. And when you bring them from the interior, you got to watch them like a hog, over your kid. You put it, eat the baby, even sleep. But the point that I'm trying to make here is about the sexual predators in Liberia. Look, in this country, for people who work in social services, I think Mr. Sharif is in that field. You have like the CPS, you have, Gardner and Lightums, people who represent kids in the court of law, child advocates, all these different things. This is what a enlightened and a civilized society would do to, to protect the most vulnerable amongst us, which is the kids who can't speak for themselves, who can't fight, So for me, I think the fact that grown men will rape kids and almost try to murder them, and as a society that's dominated by men, that we wouldn't stand up for these kids with the harshest punishment for these people, it's sickening to me. Even in this country, America, where crime is rampant, all kinds of different crime, you know for a fact that if you're a child molester, you're a child predator, and you go to jail, just forget it. But people will say, just forget what you're on, because those guys in jail will take care of you. They will most likely kill you, maim you, and do something to you that will be so terrible that you will probably wish you were dead. So my thing is, what are the men doing in the society? We're not calling for mob justice, but what are we doing to really try to make examples of these sexual predators? I mean, we see rape on the rise. We see, infant killing on the rise, especially in the rural counties. What are we doing to try to dissuade this? And I think the government has to put in place. Mr. John, I'm almost demoralized when I think about it, because I want to put the blame on the government, but I'm also thinking about all the things that they have on their hands. The economy is not doing well. The drug is running rampant. Now we have an issue with children being molested and sexually abused, and physically assaulted by their own family members. What do you prioritize? All of these things are very important to the survival of our country, but what do you prioritize? Do you prioritize the drug that's killing the young people? Do you prioritize the economic, situation that's leaving people destitute economically? Do you prioritize our kids who are the future of our country? And most of these young girls, you see them, they become prostitutes, they become useless and promiscuous in the society, because most of them are molested or sexually assaulted as young kids. So I don't know the answer to it. I would just say that on these specific cases, you got to make an example out of them. Execution is not, I don't think it's outside of our constitution. We can execute some of these people publicly and tell the country that this is unacceptable. We have to protect our babies. If we catch you raping and sexually assaulting a child, it's automatic death sentence, in my opinion. Thank you.
They say, for the guy who raped, they say family sources reveal that Otis has a disturbing history of sexual violence. So probably this is not the first time.
Yeah.
Mr. Sharif, I mean, you were all the way behind God's back in Kalipo.
Yes.
Look, I mean, if you did such a thing, you were dead. So what really is happening? We could say the war, right? It's been almost 30 years, right? So we have the drug issue. We have raping of babies. I never heard that before, until after the war. Maybe it happened, but it was not reported. Now we have adults killing children, cutting their fingers, burning their hands, and doing all these things in clear sight.
Yeah.
What is responsible for this? Is it because government is not looking? The family structure broken down? What is happening?
Yeah, Dennis, you mentioned Kalipo. I mean, these things were unheard of. And so even if anything remotely close to this happened, that came to the limelight, there were retributions, traditional retributions as well as official retributions. This is, this right here that you catalog perfectly well, very, very well. It just speaks to the degradation of our society. And we haven't been able to pull ourselves from underneath all of the things that happened to Liberia. I mean, the sequence of events that Liberia experienced, we haven't been able to get from underneath it. Of course, I don't want to go back to foundational history and all these different things because it would take us forever. So let's just have a marker. So my marker will be after 1980, and even during that time period, there was still some semblance of law and order. There was still something that you can say. There were traditional norms that were observed after around that time. Now comes the Civil War, all norms broke apart. Everything. Elders were no longer respected. Women were no longer respected. Children were no longer respected. So all of these things now broke down. But decades after the war, we haven't been able to come from underneath it quickly. Dennis, I'll give you an example of something that happened. Katie Mueller and the More Than Me Foundation, the co-founder of that foundation, abused dozens, over a dozen, according to records, published records, abused more than a dozen, sexually abused more than a dozen children in that school. And nothing, he was never found guilty. Well, he was arrested and something like that, and he died in jail. No one else was.
He had AIDS. He was giving those young girls AIDS, Mr. Shelby.
He had AIDS too, according to a report. No one else was found liable for this. Katie Mueller walked free from this. I mean, what kind of society is this? So you go to Liberia, you do these things, and you're supposed to be the savior of these people. And this is what your foundation did. And you walk away from this free. Up to this time, Katie Mueller was never, and her foundation was never held accountable for the destruction that they did to those kids. Another example, Jessica Lloyd, and Lucas. Lucas was let out of prison. And what happened to Jessica? What happened to Jessica Lloyd? She carried a scar, physical scar, the mental scar of that abuse. And so this then filters down to all of the things that you're seeing now. All of the things that you're seeing now, it didn't just start. It continues to happen over and over and again. And Dennis, and the sad thing is that you see no solution. There's nothing. No government is not taking any steps. There's nobody's doing anything. Everything is lip service. And that is really, really dangerous. It's really dangerous. It's very sad. It's very sad what's happening. So if for Liberia, anything goes. Anybody can go to Liberia and do whatever and do anything, and nothing comes of it. And then meanwhile, in the country, the people themselves, are doing these things all over now, knowing that, they can only go to jail maybe for a few months and someone will let them out. Okay.
Thank you. Victor, under President Weah, we have something called the gender-based violence roadmap, if I'm calling that correctly. And we try to follow at a time, people like ladies like Tavina Cole, Jackie, they were all part of this group that were monitoring these things in Liberia. So that gender-based violence roadmap, President Weah was called the
feminist in chief.
Yeah, feminist in chief. And it just died a natural death. But I would say at least we were hearing something, even though nothing was accomplished or carried out. Under President Boakai, have we, seen any sign of a strategy or a plan to combat violence against children, including women?
Well, yeah, I mean, I honestly, I'm really trying here to, identify anything that, has a semblance of a plan. I don't know if there is any. Please, if you know, type it in the chat there. Where's Wallow? Maybe Wallow is listening. He can help us out here. But I'm unaware. But I think the problem is a general lawlessness in the country. All of these, if you have a government that doesn't believe in practicing the rule of law, if you have a government that defies the Supreme Court, if you have a government that defies, the tenure laws. If you have a speaker who would drill another legislator's car, drill in the legislator's car, even though when he could have towed the car away, So we have our leaders demonstrating lawlessness, at the helm of power. Why would we, the ordinary people, not imitate them? So this is, I believe, this is where the problem is. And the president today, I don't think he gets it. He seems to think that what we're talking here, we just a bunch of sounding boxes. We don't know what we're talking about, and we just come on here and talk. Well, okay. So we don't know what we're talking about. How about you who know what we're talking about? Why about you do something and show us that you really know what you're doing? How about you do that? How about your people do what they're supposed to do? You take a cultural troop here and take it to Japan. What is that supposed to get us? Jimmy made that point. What is that supposed to get us in terms of the financial benefit that we went to look for? And we're the ones who don't know what we're talking about, Mr. President. Seriously?
Yep.
So so I think there's a general breakdown of law and order in the country. And when that happens, you know what people say about the fish? When they rotting the rest of the body, it is going to also get rotten. You have a government that doesn't believe in the rule of law. This government has demonstrated time and again. From the very inception, from the Julie Andy case, I keep pointing that case out, the government called the judge and put their finger on the scale. Ever since that time, they threw the law through the window. So why is it that we, the ordinary people, you got ordinary people beating a police, a security, I don't care whether it's a city police or whoever. They're beating an officer in the streets, and the rest of the people are cheering him on. I don't know whether they say behave or believe. I don't know which one it was. But the fact that nobody even rises to his aid, I don't care what he did. That's another story. I think he will be disciplined, whatever, but he represents the law enforcement. He's the face of the law. Our people, we have to, these things that our leaders have to model these things, and then the rest of us will follow them. I mean that's the short side of my story. I think if the leadership is demonstrating that if Carlos disregard for the rule of law, the rest of us we would do likewise. So I think that's the problem. Coming back to our critical voices, yes, I think there is a conspicuous silence of our critical voice, our women, advocates. Where are they? What happened there? You call Telvina. She's one of the voices. I respect her. She has a big microphone. What happened to her voice? She seems to have lost her voice. Where is Councilor Yakula? Where are these people? What happened to them? Well, where is the opposition community? Where is the CDC? They're supposed to be the biggest opposition. Where are they? Where's the ENC? Right now it's only the CMC that's making noise in the space. And I will say it. They can come and write whatever. The keyboard warriors can come on here and.
The CMC got women group. We here from the CMC. Just saying, we seen it.
So let me come to you, Pastor Salis. Pastor Salis, I had a personal information with how do you call them, orphanage home in Grand Bassa County. So I had a friend who gave birth, and then the lady, a young woman from the orphanage home, came to take care of, So when she was strong enough, she wanted to send the girl back to the orphanage home. She started crying, said, "Please don't send me back," because the husband of the orphanage home is molesting us. He will come sometime and say, "Hey, let me give you 2,000 and do XYZ to you." When I heard that, it's like I almost passed out. So I called someone from the gender ministry and say, "Here's the situation. This is what happened." And I wanted to talk with the person, but they couldn't allow me for me to. I thought, they were going to jump on it right away. But till now, we're texting. I wanted for us to talk because the news was so heavy for me, I couldn't even text. It's like, can I call you? Can we talk about this? This is the place. This is the name of the orphanage home. This is the guy who's doing it. When we tried, the little girl told someone, and she's like 20. Told someone. So when I tried to talk to her, she just pulled back, and I knew what was going on. So I'm not trying to say that the current government is not doing anything. I just want to know what the current government is doing through the gender ministry and the justice ministry. They used to have like a consortium, and when they put that gender-based violence group together. But again, we have a country where government does not pick up from the previous spot. Everybody starts from scratch. So if you have any information, lay on me, Pastor.
Unfortunately, because I'm not going to try to pretend to be expert on what the Liberia Gender Ministry does. I mean, on TV, I'm not going to pretend to be that expert, but I don't think there's any program at the Gender Ministry that addresses the need and protection of children. I think even the gender-based violence things you talk about during the previous administration, it was just mostly women going to report their husbands and girlfriend boyfriend situation. They did not really address domestic violence that really involve children. Children are our most vulnerable population, and I'm not going to use the U.S. as a shining example of children protection because we see what's going on here, but they have some framework. Okay, I can speak on that because I own a daycare center. I own and operate a daycare center, and to work around children here. And apart from owning and operating a daycare center, I'm also coaching with the U.S. Soccer Federation. I coach competitive youth soccer, and I know all the trainings I do. If you have to walk around children, there are trainings you have to do. There are background checks. I can't tell how many background checks I have completed just with U.S. Soccer Federation alone, let alone our daycare center. We have almost 20 employees, and to even hire, you got to go through different background checks because if you work around children and you messed up, you have to register. And so there's something on you that can determine, okay, there's a red flag here. Maybe it's not a good idea to have this person around children. So like the orphanage you're talking about, that kind of man with such allegations should not even be around children. And when you do the kind of trainings we do here in those children's services here in the U.S., they show you how you can detect abuse when children are being abused. Just interacting with them, you can know how they are withdrawn, how they get violent sometimes, and some behaviors that they exhibit. So there are so many ways to detect those abuses. But Liberia, I don't think we have anything like that. We're not even doing anything, even from early administration. I mean, JMB was the VP in the administration for 12 years. All they did was just giving children rights, but there was nothing about child protection, from abuse. So if we can't even do the basics, low-hanging fruits to protect the children. I was doing some statistics, and I went back all the way to the 70s, and I realized that according to the United Nations Population Fund, they are projecting that by 2025, the population of Liberia ages 0 to 14 will be at 39%. That's an astronomical number. So we're talking about lots and lots of children. So if we cannot develop programs to protect these children and we just expose them to predators, and most of the time, instead of handling things in the court, we want to handle things, in the community, in the family, because we are all connected. So maybe if violence happened to this child, say, oh, you can't do this, this person related to this person, you're going to send this person to jail, and you're going to do that. Okay, let's just handle it, and then they handle in the family way. But there's no justice for those children. There's no protection for them. And a serious government will want to have a strong law or strong laws on the books that will protect our most vulnerable population. Liberia doesn't have that, and I don't even think the gender ministry has that in their charter. Neither are they even thinking of anything in that direction because they don't even see these children as anything important. So their own family can abuse them, their own parents. Children should be in school. They're not in school. They're hawking on the streets. I mean, children be 9 years old, 10 years old, 12, when they should be in school, they got a widow on their head. They're hawking along the street. Those are all abuses. We should do everything to protect them.
Thank you. The former vice president, Joe Howard Taylor, said, blame the parents instead when these things are happening. So, Dukle, let me come to you here on Because yes, it's government, but like what I talked about was an orphanage home. So what our communities are doing, our churches, our mosques, you know, our villages, in neighborhoods, what are we doing? We can put all the blame on government. When we interviewed the deputy gender minister from the previous administration, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, what he was lamenting is the only money available at the ministry there is for salaries. You have maybe what was reported at the University of Liberia is the same across all ministries, except for the Presidential Affairs Ministry under
Recipe.
McGill, where stationery alone was more than what they were given to MCSS. So they don't have, there's no money. We try to suggest that even to have an Excel spreadsheet, they used to have these or safe houses and all, they don't even have the money to create like a database or just basic Excel spreadsheet of those things that they were reporting. So everything is just salary. But the community can help, churches, but these now, like the churches and orphanage homes, these are now breeding ground for this kind of thing. And parents, guardians, they go in the interior to get somebody and they are abusing that person.
Yes, Dennis, this problem, as you just laid out, I always say, as a person, I started my career as a classroom teacher, and then I upgraded from there to become a family therapist. And over the years, I've seen people who have dealt with personal trauma, people who have dealt with community trauma, and people who have dealt with violence. And so, and I've always said that one of the problems we have of post-war Liberia is that everybody in Liberia is traumatized, and I mean that literally. Everybody is traumatized. And so, what you've just said here, that's where the solution lies, or that's where the solution should begin. But you see, that is when you were talking about that gentleman who raped the 8 months old child. There was a story that says this kid has he attempted to rape his own mother, and there was some report of violence against his sister. Now, it's clear to me, based on my training, that individual is an unstable person. He's not well mentally. Two things: he should have either been locked up or be somewhere to be rehabilitated. He should not have been there to wait until he committed these heinous crimes. And in order to deal with these issues, you have to deal with it from the community level. And like you just said rightly, in the churches, in the mosque, in the local communities. And also, the reason why we have not seen this to the level that we really need to see it is that people have come to normalize these things as if it's not a big deal. In other words, if somebody is not involved in sexual crime or other offenses, it's not a big deal. We don't see it as something that we shouldn't be doing. And I saw, as I do spend considerable amount of time in the Liberia online landscape. I remember seeing a video of an elderly man, probably in his late 50s, with a bunch of teenage girls, I think 12, 13, explicitly talking about intimacy, and the girls were there cheering him up. And some of the things he was saying to them, I can't say it here on TV. And so, I mean, they were talking about it as if it's normal. I don't know if any of you did see that video. This gentleman was saying how he liked young girls and all kinds of stupid things. And
I feel like he was drunk.
Yes, and people were around him as if it's actually normal. It's not a big deal. So this is where you realize people don't see these things as problem, but it is a problem. And so because of the vulnerability of children, because of the way children need protection, a lot of emphasis is put on it. But this violent thing here is something that has been, I mean, it's all over. I don't know if any of you saw the gentleman who was riding a kicker who beat that police officer. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, people don't feel, you know, and there are laws on the books. There are you know, punishment prescribed by the law. But you see, people don't feel like, you know, if I do this, I'm going to face the actual consequence that I'm supposed to face. You know, if he or she comes from somewhere that his parent can afford, they go and bribe somebody in the police station. The next day he's out, and it brings me back to that kid who you know, raped that little child. Why was this guy still available in the community to commit this heinous crime that he did? Why was he not somewhere, either in prison or somewhere seeking treatment? I mean, I'm probably in prison because there's no treatment. So then there's a complete breakdown in our social fabrics when it comes to violence. There is a complete breakdown when it comes to civility towards one another, and people don't see it. They don't see it for the seriousness that it needs to be seen at. And so, really, this thing has to start at the kindergarten level, middle school level, in high school level, and on to the communities, to the churches. And so, people are not sensitized enough to know that these things shouldn't be done. I mean, I'm not saying these things were not there before the war, but the prevalence that we see today was not there before the war. And because people have not gotten they needed therapy, they needed support. You see, people focus a lot on ex-fighters, but it was not only, you know, these are people who were directly exposed to this violence. But we, the civilian, we, the citizens, we were all affected. We were all affected. So we all needed to be checked in. We all needed therapy. We all needed support. And how do we? What support do we need? To talk to one another, to sensitize one another as to how we can avoid getting ourselves into this. Look, I heard Pastor Salif talking about how people are checked, how people are, you know, you do criminal record check. Look, I came across something here they call prior record. That is, you know, you do your criminal record check, you come clean. And there's something called prior contact. What that means is, for example, you were charged with a sexual offense or whatever offense. You want to quote, you were found not guilty, but you are not innocent. I mean, this is it's crazy, but I mean, I was fascinated when I heard it. They said, so what they do is they will contact, your employer will contact these social service agencies and see if you had a situation where you were not found guilty, but you are not innocent. And if something comes back, that institution is not going to hire you, because even though you were not found guilty, but because they don't think you were innocent, nobody will hire you. These are all layers of protection to avoid liability on the employer, because he or she knows if you hire somebody like that, something happens, you will be held liable. So there's up there, in other words, there's consequence to hiring people who got these kind of things behind them. So look, we need to lock these people up, lock them up. Unfortunately, there is no social services that can support them, only by the government. And then there's one last point I want to make here, which is part of the problem too. There's no continuum in everything we do in Liberia. The CDC government comes in, they introduce something. The moment they leave office, that's the end of it. The succeeding government is not going to say, okay, this was good, let's continue. So there's a lot that needs to be done to curb violence in our society, to curb violence in our community. People need to be sensitized. People need to be orientated towards civility. I mean, it just people are not afraid of getting in trouble. I don't know if you guys remember, but I know when I was growing up, one of the things that we had, Dennis, you never touch a police officer when he or she is in her uniform.
Yeah,
that's how we respect our uniform.
That is normal. But thank you, Duke. I want to go to Jimmy before he gets distracted. Jimmy, this violence against children, you know, especially little girls, is even in the church. Take, for instance, in the church, pastors are accusing little children of witchcraft. and they are subjected to all kinds of treatment. So I don't know if there's something new that is happening in the country or something that has happened that the most vulnerable in our society continue to be abused.
Okay,
If you want,
so
I mean, children, even in my own family, what we came to realize later on, this little girl, brilliant. Her crime was, why she liked to talk to big people. She's always talking to older people. So that means she's a witchcraft at night, pretending to be a little girl in the day, right? 15 years later, we found out that because she was with her aunt, 15 years later, we found out that it was the aunt's husband who was molesting her. So they try to put these kind of things together. And if you really subject the child to those things, they were going to confess something stupid. This is everywhere, Jimmy. I mean, give me some hope here. You're the diplomat.
I mean, it's evident that our morals, our respect for laws have broken down. It's been degenerating for some time until we had a total collapse when we had all-out war. And you remember in our all-out war, we had whole villages being burnt for obviously no ideological reason. So that is where we're starting from. So to rebuild that respect for law, you have to do it at the grassroots level. We have to organize our communities, our neighborhoods. This is not just a government issue. The people themselves have to engage in this resuscitation of our morals and values and respect for law. We organize them in groups, in neighborhoods with elders. That's what we had elders for. If something like this happened in the community, the elders would give it the attention it deserves. A lot of this cannot be forwarded to government authorities simply because they're overwhelmed as it is. So what do we do instead? We organize ourselves in little groups using hospitals, using schools, using chiefs and elders, so that when things like this occur, the community can address it in some way. I'm not talking about mob violence or vigilante. I'm talking about what should we do when we have this in our community. Let the people go back and do it. If they can't leave it to the government can't handle all that thing they're going. We need a code. We need our moral code. It has to be restored, and we have to propagate. We have to talk to each other and agree that this sort of thing, we will deal with it this way. Stay within the law. But there's been such a breakdown in our moral code that if we have to resuscitate it, we have to address it. So we can talk to our faces blue on these panel shows. It has to happen at the grassroots level. People have to be convicted that this sort of thing, we will not allow it amongst us, and that will require a strong campaign to get people on board. Look, I've seen how different uses of this sort of mechanism. I saw Jerry Rawlings use it. I saw it being used in Ethiopia during their revolution. You have these establishments in all the neighborhoods so they can address the problems that are affecting them, conscientize the leaders, conscientize them about what is going on and what direction they want to go. But we can't, it's not going to be the government to solve this by themselves. They can't, because we're doing it. They can't be everywhere all the time. So what are we doing in our communities to reverse the effect of this? And until we get serious with our own individual ethics and commitment to restore Liberia sanctity, it's not going to happen. A lot of this, we have to take it upon ourselves and do it.
Hey,
Yes.
Dennis, can I have quick 30 seconds?
Before 30 seconds, really, literally 30 seconds.
Yeah, I
One
wanted
of
to
the-
respond to something Jimmy said. You know, this mentality of us always trying to absolve government. And I hear it all the time, oh, government can do it. Then why are they in power? There is no
they
other
can
group
do
of
all.
people.
That
Yeah,
that
one
was
second. Yeah, there's no other group of people. Nobody in Liberia has prosecuting power, has the power that government has. Yes, government might not be everywhere, but government will set up the structure, create a framework for these things to work. Every time there is something wrong, we say, oh, government can do it. Then why do we need government? That's why we put them in power. They got to create a structure and a framework to make sure these things happen. So if these things are not happening, if there's a breakdown in our moral code and all these, it's the fault of government. We cannot absorb them of that.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah,
you. Dr. Mahler, before you come in, I was searching, and what I found, because I'm trying to see what the government, through the Justice Ministry, doing about these things. Yes, they grab those people, they put them in jail. I mean, then what? And sometimes these things, they are not the result of just people, want to be violent. Some of them are sick,
Yes.
like the kid we talk about. So what really is government doing? So I
Yeah.
was searching and I found there was a 16-day of other activism in November 2023. The government, UN, and CSO launched this campaign under the theme "Invest to Prevent Violence Against Women and Girls," pushing national reflection and solidarity. You will say after that, then what? Then there was another one on the Day of the African Child, that's June 16, 2023. UNICEF and the Gender Ministry launched the campaign Liberia Stand Up, End Violence Against Women and Children, leveraging mass media and community engagement to raise awareness, including around online safety. Anybody, if you know what the government is doing, please share it with us. Even yeah, please share it. We want to be able to contact them and see how we can bring this to the. Dr. Mali, I want to get your thoughts, and so we can.
Yeah, I think one thing we need to take into consideration here is that when you go to funeral, you cannot cry about and the bereaved. Liberia is practicing democracy more than the funding father of democracy. I think this is where some of the problems coming from. Yes. I have two friends in Rwanda. They are lecturers there. And I was just finding out from them how they were able to manage the street garbage to put it under control. And he tells me that a post-war government must have a different characteristic with a little bit of democracy. It cannot be the normal thing going on.
Like mirror bro.
Yes. So what he was telling me is that the first 1 year, it was like Liberia. The first 1 year, people were just doing anything, killing people. The abuse were all over the place. People throwing trash on the street. And one day the president just came on and said, look, enough is enough. Authorize the police. You see any trial on the street, all the passengers in our bus, they should sleep in jail for 3 days before they go to court. And the following week, things were under control. So what I'm driving at here is that the issue of awareness is good. It's a very good thing. Okay? I don't think it's applicable to the type of evil or the gravity of evil that's going on in Liberia right now. The gravity of evil that is taking place in our country should commensurate with people going behind bars for long jail sentences. You and I, we are in this country. The country don't have much time for advocacy and begging you to listen and holding your feet and telling you, you got to understand it. No, the law is enforced and you go to jail. So what makes the country, when it comes to the type of thing, different from Liberia? You see? So I think the president has been doing excellent job. I've been seeing putting a lot of oxygen in suspending some corrupt officials and even turning some of them over to the Justice Ministry. But if the president can just put a little oxygen into this thing by recommending the arrest of some of the predators and turn over to the justice ministry, because in Africa, what I noticed is that when the decision is not made from above, it's no decision. So maybe the president can also get involved to help us with this process. But there's one thing our dear pastor said about the government. I agree with you. The government is supposed to set the agenda and put in place a framework. But equally so, a proactive mass of people can rise up. We've been demonstrating on a lot of issues of political nature in Liberia. Can we begin to demonstrate this time on some of these social vices in Liberia and set the tone and get the government attention that enough is enough, this rape thing has to stop? I think it will work well for us as well. So as we come on this,
when you say us, who you're talking about? You know, how do we organize this demonstration?
Oh, well, first of all, the mothers and the activists can organize this thing. So it's like they are even blessed. The panelists will set the agenda for them.
They just did the one against drugs.
Exactly. That's what I would have mentioned, Dennis.
Okay. So if we get our one against drugs, then the rest we should live with it.
Mr. Jack, can I come in, please?
If this is our conclusion, the rest is okay. We should just live with it.
It's not okay. We got to find a better way. Evans, what are your thoughts?
All right, let me say this, right? I think here in the diaspora, let's start right, from home here with us. We know this is an open secret in this country. You have 50-year-old men, 60-year-old men leaving the United States of America, going to Liberia and looking for 15, 16-year-old girls to have intimacy with. Because they know they can't get away with it in this country, statutory rape and so forth. They go to Liberia, they do those things, they're abusing young girls. It happens. That's the first thing. We got to name and shame them. If we know about it, we got to name and shame them. They can't go to Liberia to be a sexual playground and then come into the United States and abide by its laws. The second thing I want to say here is, let's look at the government in terms of its policy follow-through. Their arrest agenda, they're not even following their arrest agenda. You expect them to prioritize the things like gender-based violence, child abuse in the country. The agriculture, the whole arrest thing, they're not following none of it. They had to do 3 different times. They had to go for retreat just to relaunch it. They're not following it. So this is a government without vision. I think, not to go into the Bible, but I think something in the Bible says a man without, a leader without vision cause a nation to perish, or something to that effect. You have an 84-year-old man, respectfully to our president, he's in that office, who has no vision. I like to say,
you're leaving the topic now.
No, let me just say this. I don't want to go there. But this is a saying that I did. It's my own thing. It's nobody quoted it. I just made it up in my mind. But I like to say persistence.
Due to the lack of vision, my people perish. That's scripture.
Okay. But the point I want to make is persistence is a companion of success, right? The president don't stick with anything. His own agenda, he's abandoning. He's looking for different ideas. He's plucking different things from here. He's not consistently trying to achieve his agenda. So if we're telling him that he needs to now refocus to fight drug, to fight child, abuse, epidemic that's happening in the country, he can't follow through on anything. And this is the issue with our country. We have too many problems and too little resources to address most of our problems. And that's why some people like Mr. Kellevo Gongo was calling for a military dictatorship. Because when you get a kick up the rear end, you're going to think twice before you do something wrong. Because instead of putting money and putting resources to it, they're going to put the boot to your rear end. So I think maybe that's our best solution. Instead of using money and resources to fix our problem, let's use fear and intimidation. Maybe that's the only thing that's going to work. Because we don't have the money, our government don't have the vision, our leaders don't have the persistency to stay with any kind of agenda and see it through. So how are we going to solve our problems? Thank you.
All right. Yesterday we tried to talk this issue. We discussed this, and it didn't happen. That's the audit at the Ministry of Finance and Development Planning. Also, so let's go into the Victor. I know you on top of that story, right? Where they're telling the finance administrator, hey, is some money here not accounted for? You say, and give a what many call flimsy excuse. You were able to follow that story, Victor?
No, I'm sorry, I didn't.
Who followed it? Jimmy, you did.
A little bit, yeah.
Okay, go ahead. And we'll discuss Mr. Gaffon because there was a lot expected from him when he was coming.
Right.
A lot. Being there, being budget director, finance minister, foreign minister, and then you went and work outside the country, and then you are coming back. So there is a lot that we being put on him. In your view, is he living up to expectation? Victor, I'm not going to let me still go before I come to Sharif. Is he living up to that expectation, or just there's I mean, all the system things are so bad that a complete overhaul would do the trick.
Well, I think there are some real challenges that he's dealing with. I have to acknowledge that. I think the enormity of the problem really probably is crushing under that. But I think there are some moves that he has also made that are also raising eyebrows. A lot of people thought he was coming in to bring order to this runaway expenditure that was occurring under this government. But if anything, he has actually done things to enable this out of budget spending out of that. I mean, I think it was during his time the legislature put in for $13.3.6 million for hearing. What did he give them? He gave them $17.9 million. How? His director just quit. I think today or yesterday or so. Obviously some internal disagreement, but calling Susupa and all of that. We're talking about it $2.8 million that doesn't seem to have any kind of mechanism for accountability. That is in the
Victor, let me read a story briefly so you'll see.
Please.
An audit by the General Auditing Commission has revealed that the Ministry of Finance Development Planning may be circumventing the approved salary structure by disbursing wages under the grants transfer category in the national budget instead of the standard basic salary allocation. The GSC report warns that this misclassification of expenditure creates a recipe for fraud, potentially enabling fraudulent financial reporting if used to conceal over or underutilization of funds. He also noted that management could exploit the system to release additional salaries that do not comply with the government's harmonized pay grade. In response, the Ministry of Finance and Development Planning acknowledged the audit finding but provided context. The ministry explained that some institutions, including Grand Crew Technical College, are only allocated funds under grant transfer category by the budget department rather than basic salary. Both salary and operational payments for these institutions are made from their grant allocation. The audit further revealed that during the fiscal year 2024, the government disbursed $282 million in wages, salaries, and employee benefits compared to $301 million in 2023. However, sample transactions show that $9.8 million was disbursed to employees at several government institutions, including National Legislature, Ministry of State for Presidential Affairs, under grants transfer instead of the salary code, effectively circumventing the government salary ceilings.
I mean,
go ahead.
That story, like I said, I'm not a finance person, but circumventing, obfuscating, whatever the terminology, but it sounds like somebody who is forging the numbers and playing tricks with the numbers at the Ministry of Finance. And like I said again, his comment was heralded as the big boy in the room who will help us, to impose order. But I don't think this is what we are witnessing under this minister. And
Right.
many very well, recognized and respected finance people are now calling into question his capability, to manage this ministry. And like I said again, I will leave it to my colleagues here who are finance people. But his performance so far sounds like he is not up to the task. If anything, he's knowing it, enabling a continuation of business as usual, or he's incapable of bringing order to the system. Either way, it's the same old.
Mm. So what they accuse him of is there's a salary ceiling. Let's say salary is supposed to be 300 million.
Right.
So you categorize those things as salary, but then you still pay salary, but then you categorize
On
it
the
as something else.
side, therefore,
That's right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
it's
that
kind
it
of
looks
hitting the ceiling, right? Yeah.
now then you have gone through the ceiling. If
Yeah.
government's supposed to spend only 300 million on salary, you are spending 500 million, and that's why you are not putting the excess 200 million under the salary category.
And that is the reason why the former governor was removed from the National Bank for the same
It's a,
reason.
it's a got 10 seconds. Let me just give you something that's happening right now. It's a little out of place. But in the National Basketball Association, there's a basketball player called Kawhi Leonard who was paid $28 million from a tree planting company outside of the salary cap of his basketball team. So right now, the owner of his basketball team is probably going to get fined a hefty amount. This is a similar thing that's happening in Liberia. You're trying to pay people what is under the salary cap. You pay them above the salary cap, but you're classifying it as something else, like an endorsement deal, but it's still a salary that you're giving that person, but it doesn't count against the salary cap. It's exactly what Gafan is doing. He thinks he's too smart, but he's not too smart for the people that are working under him.
I think it sounds like he took a page. It sounds like he took a page from Twitter book.
What would be the incentive? How does he personally benefit from that? If you think this
because his number looks good when he does his yearly review, it looks like he had everything under control. He kept the salary, right where it should be. Everybody got paid. He wasn't over budget. He didn't overextend himself. But in reality, he overextended himself. But he used that. He said these were grants to different agencies when they're actually salaries. So that's what he's trying to do.
The real question is, what is the motivation for doing that? What is motivation?
They're trying to get the MCC scorecard. They're trying to act like they're managing the financial health of our country. They're trying to make that MCC score. That's what they're doing. They're cooking the books.
What is going on is they're trying to meet certain metrics. And this is the same thing Toy was talking about, dig hole, cover hole. That's the same thing you're doing. And it's a challenging place to be, because you know very well you don't have the money to do or to cover certain expenses, to cover certain salaries. So you find a way to do it. And what needs to happen is revenue generation. And you can't just generate revenue by taxing people, levying taxes. That's not the only way of generating revenue. They have to create avenues for people to invest in business and grow their business. So that's how you would get money. But this requires something intuitive. You need to think out of the box. You need to come up with solutions that are not so simple. And sometimes it requires connections and bringing people to Liberia and all of that sort of thing. So it is going to be challenging. It is one thing to know book. Let talk to Liberia English. It's one thing to know book.
That's the problem. Sorry, Jimmy, continue.
It's one thing to know book, but it's another thing to be able to use your connections and relationships to boost the economy, and that is where I think he's having challenges, because without connections, without partnerships, and without a strong campaign within the country to generate more income, to provide more avenues for people to grow their business, you can't make it any other way. So he's facing a steep uphill battle.
So that's why that's a problem that I have with Gafuan. You see, I expect people that are repeat appointees should know certain things. There's one thing I admire when journalists interview people who are previous office holders. The question they ask them: if you had the opportunity to redo this thing, what would you do? Did you realize there was some mistake? Maybe a former president, a former minister, a former director, they interview them and they ask them the question. And what you hear from them is, if I had another opportunity to go back to this office, I realized I missed this, I missed this, I missed that, I will put them in place. So that's why I have problem with Gafuan. He has the easiest job. The reason he has the easiest job, he been in that office before. He has been in government before. He had done these things before. So after leaving government, you sit back and have a retrospect and say, oh, maybe when I have an opportunity, these were things I did not tackle, these were things I did not fix. How do you come back to the same office you had before? And you can't even do anything to create a change. It's like the first time I was there, I did not learn anything from that previous appointment. You know, so that is a problem. So we do need people like
But the situation changed.
Yeah, but yeah, things change. You know,
this change. But what are you telling me, Labrador's economy? How much change has it done? Didn't we bring
$500 million from the US? Yeah, $500 million from the US.
So that's why you should be more proactive in your thinking, because you were there before. You know how this things work. We blame the CDC.
The man finally created ways. He finally created ways to pay salary using it as grant. That's part of his, you know, he finding solutions. Yeah.
But the dynamic has changed when he came back for the second time. The dynamics were completely different.
Thank you.
Really?
No ECMO this time.
Excuse me, host.
No donor agencies. Even you say it's not giving you any more money.
And that is why he should be more proactive in
He's very proactive. He pays salary with great money. That's what he's doing.
and taking it to the roof.
Yeah, my question
you know the hard thing that nobody wants to do? We don't need all those people on payroll. But if you do that, then you got to worry about the political ramifications of it. But we don't need all those people on payroll.
Mr. Sherry, let me bring you in here because sometimes
Dr. Mali wanted to say something real quick, Mr. John. I think we keep skipping over it.
Hold on.
Yeah, no.
It just so well that for the past 7 years.
Yeah. It's a quick question.
All right, go ahead.
When the former finance minister honored the former president George Weah implemented a salary harmonization, there was this, he was crucified by this public opinion. Yet, George Weah, His Excellency, did not find problem with that. It was rather the public opinion that found problem with that. And so the public opinion case did not go anywhere. So the same thing again is being replayed. So this begs the question, is His Excellency finding problem with this man Pitfall? Or it is the public opinion that finding problem with this man Pitfall?
And that's why we are here to discuss. And
okay. So the answer is no. Because if His Excellency is actually finding problem with the man Pitfall, he's very quick to remove you and have you sent over to the Justice Ministry. So I think the Excellency has praised this man to be doing an excellent job.
Okay, thank you.
I think so.
And we'll invite Mr. Gafuan. We'll work on that to see, you know, most of the time, even though Sam Waller doesn't believe it, but we'll do that. But, Mr. Sharif, I want to bring you in on this whole thing that maybe there's an idea of political patronage. You want to do something, you know, but your hands tied because maybe the president or your boss has other plans. And so it's like you know what to do. You can do it, but to say, hey, this is, you know, this is what we have. What we have. Do you see that maybe that's the second coming of Gafuan? Do you think that's what he's facing?
Yeah. So Dennis, before I answer this question, somewhere in the last discussion,
and we were told that the government is overwhelmed, and not everything should be left with the government. Well, people go into public, these positions for a reason. They knew what they were getting into. People knew what they're getting into. They knew that the past government wasn't doing what they were supposed to do. So therefore, they campaigned and they told us that they were going to fix things. So the idea that people are overwhelmed is not a good excuse for government. And government should drive. And I believe that, because we have this, almighty presidency, government gives, churches and, masjids, bag of rice, money, this and that, and all these different things. Everybody looks up to the government, the president. He is the mighty president. So therefore, use that pulpit, use that podium as the man who is now, who everyone looks up to drive the agenda. All of the issues. I don't care if it's 200 issues out there. You, as a president of the Republic of Liberia, has to drive the agenda. You have to go to people. You have to go to these masters. You have to go to the churches. Tell them, let them know. What is it? You have to let people, you have to drive that agenda through your administration, through the legislature. Fight for it because you knew what you were getting into. And that's what you were paid for anyway. And we are overpaid. Our officials are overpaid. So now give me the work that give me the production. For all this money that you've been paid, give me the production. Our government is way underutilized. So, we as civilian, and analysts and all these different things, we should not give them a way out. We should not be saying, well, they're overwhelmed. So let's deflect some of this for now. No, because they're listening to this and they practically take this and run with it. We're overwhelmed. So therefore we can't talk about, child abuse. We're overwhelmed. Therefore we can't talk about drug abuse. We're overwhelmed. Therefore we can't talk about roads now. We got to put that to next year. And next year will come, then the other year, and nothing is done. To this issue of the finance minister, one of the things.
So what we're going to do? Put them in a chokehold?
Yes. Put them in a politically speaking. Put them in a chokehold. Hold their feet. Politically speaking. Hold their feet to the fire. That they should do these things. The voters, with whom I'm very disappointed, they're not holding nobody accountable. What do you see election after election? T-shirts, bag of rice. And then, we elect these people and they never come back again till 6 years after that. You're left with those T-shirts, those bag of rice will be gone. And these people never come back after that. And that is what's going on. So yes,
let me announce our numbers here. We have 7 minutes to close. 605-313-6004. The code is 791-403#. If you want to take part, please call the number. And Sam Wallow, I encourage you to call. You can call my personal phone. I'll put it on speaker for you. You got some brilliant ideas. We want to hear you too.
Hey, Dennis, please give me a second. Let me support my brother.
Sherry is still on the floor.
Oh, sorry.
Okay. Yeah, I will concede. I will talk for I won't talk for long and give my brother time to come in on this one because y'all know I don't. Me and ST never usually agree with anything.
I'm in agreement with you tonight.
Yeah, I agree with him. I agree with him on this. And then just briefly, the finance minister. There's one thing he said that the $2.8 million, which was an archiving challenge. He said of the more than $700 million expended in 2024, documentation was validated, but $2.8 million was an archiving error. He said that they weren't given more time. I'm disappointed because I know that he's capable. I know he's very capable. But why are you talking about error? Why are you talking about they didn't give you time? These things should already be there. They should already be there. So if you permit, I'll let my brother come in.
Thank you, Mr. Sherry. I want to support your point.
He swear you will never call.
I want to support Mr. Sheriff's point. You see, discussing the Liberian problem, most time we're not honest, because now we're trying to move the goalposts. It comes to the UP now, we say, oh, the dynamics has changed because UN was there. Did the dynamic not change under we administration? Was there UN? The UN left, so we had that struggle. We blame them, we criticize them. That's why we brought in the rescue team. Now the rescue team is having the same lapses through the finance ministry. Now we want to sit on the shoulder and say, oh no, we cannot blame them because the dynamic has changed. Things were different. We got to hold their feet to fire. That's why they came. They came to fix this. They came as the rescue people. So if they're making the same, having the same pitfall as the WEA administration, we're not going to absorb them. They need to get their ass together. I support my brother Sherry. We got to hold their feet to fire.
Pastor Sharif, let's be fair. For those of us who are fair in our analysis, I made the point that without the $500 million that was infusing into the economy, you can't expect the WEA administration to get water out of a rock. I'm using that same consistency to say that with all of the aid that's been cut, all of some of the money that's been taken out of the economy, we can't expect Gafon to perform miracles. We know that we're cash crap. So to expect him to outperform the budget is being unfair to him. I don't support this government, but I'm not going to sit here and be unfair and ask him to do the impossible. Let's be fair.
No, it's not doing the impossible. It's bringing in people that are critical thinkers that dynamics has changed. We need people. Look at even the cranes that fly in the sky. They change, they rotate their leadership based on the kind of turbulence they're going to handle. You see them fly in their formation. They keep changing, rotating leadership. At this critical juncture in Liberia, we need critical thinkers that can get us out of the pit and stop making excuses for them that, oh, dynamics has changed. If we continue making this kind of excuses, then things will remain the same way they are, because the next administration will also tell them dynamics has changed. We cannot accept this.
Exactly.
So, Pastor, that's why the foreign minister during the cabinet meeting today, that's why the foreign minister started with prayer.
We do need prayer. The federal government doesn't need prayer. Leave the prayers to the leaders do critical thinking.
Oh my
Forget
God,
about the prayers.
We're
tired with the prayers.
But they know the forecast is glim. They know things are not looking good.
So let's conclude with solutions. You know how we talk about we talk about the violence against children. We talk about the president's cabinet and the price control. We spoke about also the Ministry of Finance. How do we get it right? I mean, I can't be naive to say when I get the opportunity to be superintendent of Sino, everything will be solved, right? That would be naive. How do we solve this problem? Do we know? And are we smarter than the people that are there that are not getting it right?
Yes.
Is this Monday morning quarterbacking?
No.
How do we move forward? J. Victor, we everywhere people look at you as the most seasoned when it comes to these things, right? Politics, you've been there.
Right, they're looking in the wrong place.
They were the protesters in 79.
So Dennis, I will give you my layman's prescription. Again, I'm a student of chemistry. I'm not a science person. But look, how about you don't take 40% to a delegation? How about something simple like that? I don't think you need rocket science for that, right? How about you don't do that? How about you begin with that? How about you don't take a cultural troop to Japan? Does that really make sense? I don't know. My colleagues here who are the finance people, they will come on and tell us. So why don't you begin from there? How about you don't take $200 million and try to give to Zoom Lion to clean the city? How about that? Even when you know their track record, why would you do that? We're talking about cleaning the city. My brother, St. Sylvia, was it St. I think it was Duke, who talked about his colleague Dr. Mali, his colleague in Rwanda. If we have to stop the people from throwing the dirt, first of all, we must show the initiative. If you're taking $200 million and locking a company that is questionable in for 10 years, what does that say to the rest of the people who are working for you? They know you're not serious. That will embolden them. Well, how about when people commit this thievery? How about we don't just suspend them? Can we prosecute and retrieve the loot? Can we do that? I mean, this MCSS guy just got replaced. I don't know what's happening to him. The guy from LRRC just got replaced. I don't know what's happening to him. Abdul Kamara from Telecom was sent to court. He was absorbed of everything. I mean, everything, you know. So what kind of message are we sending? So I think we can begin from there, you know. How about the president vetoing a budget for a change? A budget that is packed with fluff and filth from the legislature. How about you send it back to them? You know, so I will leave it there. You know, my colleagues will come in.
Thank you. Let me bring in one caller. The progenitor of the Mass Genius Project, Mr. Kalebo Gonglo. Mr. Gonglo, you're live.
Yes, go show. I didn't watch the show from the beginning, but I'd like to make a quick contribution here. At least the last few comments that I listened to. You know, I heard it talk about the lack of, the presence of donor in the country, which CDC government rightfully so use as part of the challenges they face. I mean, I agree with some of those. Even the current government can argue that, USAID too left. But, but to a large extent, this is really a lazy argument. Because just common sense, even under the UP 12 years, United Nations had one of the biggest missions in the world in Liberia.
And you were part of the 12 years, or Kalebo?
Yeah, I was part of the 12 years, Dennis. It doesn't get a fact.
No, that's the disclaimer I want to add.
Yeah, I want to be very clear also, since you bring that up, I like to also debunk that government is not a family thing. It is a multi-complex system. Everybody has a role definition what you play. The president is the chief executive, the legislature, the chief justice, the judges, and everybody has a role to play, right? It is defined as executive laws, really. The statute that creates different ministry, if you go with any ministry, read the statute. It's clearly defined. If you're a minister, this is your role. If you're deputy minister, this is your role. If you're assistant minister, this is your role. So it's just like at the end of the day, you account for your stewardship. That, I was assistant minister. This is what I was asked to do. Like me, says to brother, because this is some of the chief and fake argument Liberian raised when you criticize one government. Say, you're part of that. Yes, I'm part of it, but I have specific role that I play. Okay, and I perform it to the best of my ability. But I will leave that. But let me just make this point. I think part of the problem we're having here is, and we don't want to address it, which is typical of Liberians, we have to make the hard decisions. If we do not radically overhaul the state structure, even the way we address investment code, if we don't do that, you can put even a Dennis Jar or Mohammed Sherry as president of Liberia. If you don't go back to change some of the laws, look at some of the investment policy, the way you structure investment, you're going to be, the same thing is going to be for you. You're going to be crediting money because for the last 50 years, Liberia or economic policy is take a loan from the World Bank or African Development Bank, government official mismanage it, they build a small road here and there. Or in fact, in the last 20 years, the culture is when the finance minister, whether it's Anthony Saye, whether it's Amra Conan, or Augustine Gafwan, or Kamara, Boima Kamara, and now even Samuel Toure, all of that, as soon as they sound loan, which is in depth in the country, they display on Facebook and are supposed to say, yeah, the government is relevant. Just afforded that $40 million loan or $250 million loan. Loan is not economic policy, but that has been economic policy of the Liberian government for the past 50 years. They just say loan. We can generate more domestic revenue based on our policy. Okay? And Liberia generally are not patriotic. On this show, if we ask, there could be 2 or 3 persons on this FOL now that has property in Liberia. If you ask, are you paying real estate tax? 0. I'm one of those. I went to Liberia and I said, I pay property tax in register my house. Up to this point, from 2008 up to this point, I pay my real estate tax and I'm current with it. How many Liberians do that, including the president of the Republic of Liberia? They don't do it because nobody loves the country, you know. So, but the bigger thing is, if we don't change our economic policy, our investment strategy, the country will be like that.
Thank you.
I will end on this thing. Jetty, the government give all whatever you need. They ban people even from taking scrap metal out of the country to support jetty industry because it's a gas steel plant. He doesn't have that. He has the biggest steel plant in Ghana. So what SETI does, not SETI rather, not jetty, what SETI does is he produces the steel in Ghana, bring it to Liberia, and sell it expensive.
Thank you.
You know, but it's been protected by the government. That we have to industrialize the country and create jobs and get income tax from the people that had the country will develop. This loan economic policy is not going to help any government. We'll continue to be poor.
God forbid. Thank you.
That's a great point. Great point.
Okay, I don't know if I can come here and make my closing.
I will come into let me with one color. We got a color here. In the meantime, we have two shows coming up. Tomorrow, I'll be hosting the Carroll High Alumni Association. They have their convention in Minnesota, so we'll be interviewing them tomorrow. Please make a date. That's 7 p.m. tomorrow. Call out your name and where you calling from. Sharif.
Hello.
Yes, go ahead. Your name and where you calling from.
Okay, yeah, Sharif. I'm calling from Charlotte, North Carolina.
Go ahead, sir.
Okay. Sorry, I've been on the line until I got to a shopping spot. So, listen, I was okay.
Go ahead.
Okay, I think I gotta go.
Yeah, you are listening to the show. Don't listen to the show. Go ahead. You're on the phone.
Okay. This is Sharif. I just gotta hang up because I'm on the line, right? Yes.
Okay, just let him go. I made in the store. You ain't lying. Tell me pay where the grocery.
You eating 7-Eleven.
Oh, stop it.
I want to mention the reason gotta hang on. He ain't lying.
No, that was he was on the conference line, but I called him directly to. So go ahead, Sharif.
Okay, so let me go ahead and I was just sending the shopping line, but anyway.
Yeah,
Listen, I'm calling from Charlotte, North Carolina. Okay, I'm calling from Charlotte, North Carolina, right?
Okay, go ahead.
I made a comment earlier through text about a corporate for the abuse that the young people were facing. Are you listening?
Yes, please go ahead. We're listening.
Okay. So as I was saying, I think we're missing each other. Okay. So as I was saying, I made a statement earlier about. Okay, let me just call another time, man. It looks like.
All right. I know he's So also on Sunday at 7 p.m. I'm going to be hosting on the Hour of Faith. We're going to be hosting a priest of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. That's the Mormon Church, Mr. Gilate. We're going to be talking about, the core belief of the Mormon and all different things. And see, the topic is faith and identity, exploring belief, history, and hope on the Hour of Faith. My special guest is Theophilus Gilate Dennis. He's an educator, also a priest of the Church of Jesus Christ of the Latter-day Saints. And that's what we're going to be talking about. On the Hour of Faith.
Después de agarrar
Gentlemen,
macho o no well.
and Victor gave a solution. Evans, you want to come in? Go ahead. You have
All
59.
right. Yeah. Look, I would say this. I think we all understand that government is not a private entity that's making profit. Any sound person, any sound-minded person know that if your liability is more than your income, you're going to be in debt. You're going to be indebted. So right now, our country, our liability is too much. Our income is, doesn't commensurate. So one of the things I call for, even before the president took office, is austerity. Look, if you're a father in the home and you're not making enough money to cover all your bills, one of the things you can do, you can take a second job, and government officials, you're not going to take second jobs to fund the government, or you cut down on your expenses. This whole idea we got to raise more revenue. Sometimes you got to take a pause and cut down some of the expenses to make more revenue available. So for me, I think the reality is that things are hard. Globally, things are difficult. No aid is coming into that country to bust the budget. They either go to austerity or they raise more revenue. Raising more revenue probably look unlikely. So there's no idea that the president who can do a whole coup with the legislature, he can bring those guys together and tell them that it's imperative that they cut their salaries and cut some of the benefits so that they can use that money to fix some of the pressing issues like the drug crisis and other issues. That's where leadership comes from. You gotta cut across the aisle and convince these guys that it's in the country's best interest. Another thing I would say is that campaign, national campaign is not something of the past. You can use 6 o'clock every day in the afternoon shop on all the radio stations as a government and give or jingles or give out infomercial that sexual based violence against young people is unacceptable, and you can put on all the radio stations every day at 6 o'clock as a government nationally and tell people and warn them against it and make a national effort. Make posters posting all the city centers in the rural places and in the urban areas. Let people know that this is a campaign that you're trying to do on a national level. You don't have to go there and use resources, but you can do it through word of mouth. You can do it through the airways and make people aware that this is something that's going on and needs to stop. And it's a national campaign against it. The government has to do those little things to at least let people know. So for me, I think overall, I can't blame Gafwan because the reality is things are tough. We knew that when the aid was cut, things are going to be difficult. I don't want to be unfair to this government because it's a cheap political shot to take at them and say, oh, they're not doing that. But any fair-minded person will know that it's more difficult now than it was when he was working under Ellen Jones' system. And I think we have to acknowledge that. Thank you.
Thank you. Pastor Salif, and then Dr. Mali.
Is this closing?
Yes, closing. But we say let's drive it towards solution. The way forward.
Yeah, I mean, I want to close by because we
And
already.
I don't want you to say if my people who are called by my name.
I think we already overflogged the problem. So our closing should be more solution based. And I think where the country is right now, I think back at George Weah. George Weah is the only Ballon d'Or holder in soccer that never played on the world stage in the World Cup. And that was owing, in fact, to his own lack of technicality because the last game they had to qualify was a home-based gameplay in Monrovia, and it was against Ghana that they had previously defeated 3-0 in Accra. So that was the last game, and all we had needed as a technical coach director at the time was a draw, and he was playing at home. So he had all the advantage. All he needed was a draw, and we were playing in the World Cup. What did we do? He sat down as a technical coach director, brought all his old friends, Massa Gion that were eating chicken in America, all the players that struggled to get the team to where it was. He put them on the bench and brought his cronies. By the time Ghana has scored 2 goals, that's when he realized, oh, this thing is serious. He started to make changes. It was late. That's how he did not play in the World Cup. He should have been in the World Cup. He went and filed protest with FIFA that, oh, when Ghana came to Nigeria, Ghana sold the game to Nigeria. FIFA scratched that. It's the same place the country is now. We keep making the same technical mistakes, and we believe we can get from where we are by making excuses. Where we are now, the solution we need whoever is at the helm of affairs like President Boakai, you have to look around the globe. Where are those Liberians? Where are those technocrats that can come and put in the qualitative thinking, that can put in the critical thinking to get us from where we are? And let us stop making this excuse that time has changed, this has changed. Look at somebody that I try to respect, Sam Wallow, trying to challenge J. Victor Namwe. That what about EULA taking people to Liberia? It's so frivolous and so stupid. EULA delegation to Liberia. No, I'm upset. He knows that EULA delegation to Liberia
we're dealing with this people we already recorded, right?
Yeah, it was self-funded. How do you compare that to government packing people in plane to Japan? It tells us that we're not serious in discussing the issues. We're just not serious. So we got to do a merit-based appointment. We forget about our cronies. The country is at a critical juncture. We got to get the country out of where we are sitting. I think we were 8th or 7th poorest country in the world. That is not a record with the vast resources we have, with the low population that we have. It's unacceptable. So we need to change this. Thank you.
Dr. Mali.
Yeah, but Elvis kept interrupting the man. Why every because the man talking about you like then Elvis interrupting?
Why I say nothing? I already say that people that were looking for it, please.
They say the woman use and you're beating her hard at the first people you use.
I know. I think a government is a structural institution.
Baku?
And this structural institution was inherited in 1847. But unfortunately, it was a contaminated structural institution that we inherited.
Mm-hmm.
And by 1980, we thought the structural institution was broken down. But rather, people were killed, but the system was still being maintained up to the time the war came, and up to the time we elected our first president, Charles Taylor. We thought things was fine. And things were never fine until we moved to Helen Johnson, said 12 years and still things not fine. And we moved to George Weah, who would say he was one of us. Still things did not go well. Now we move now to His Excellency with his 40 year under his belt. It now appears that things are still going well. So it appears that Liberians are still yearning for a Messiah. So my solution here would be, according to the last caller, I want to agree with the last caller, there's a need to deconstruct Liberia. Because the pastor said we can go get people from other places. I can tell you, Pastor Salif, there was some group of friends that left from here to go run a voluntary service at the University of Liberia, free of charge. And people want to kill these people. And the mindset was that people came to get their job. And they started to undermine. So what we need to do here now, let's deconstruct the whole society, do away with the Liberian name, do away with the whole penal code, do away with the constitution, just come up with something new, and we have a new identity for the first time. Your suggestion will work.
Thank you.
But until then, we're not going nowhere.
Thank you, Mr. Dugley. I don't know if that's anyway. That's a solution. Do away with everything. Mr. Dugley.
Thank you, Dennis, and thank you to my fellow panelists. I think it was a very lively debate. You know, Dennis, we've talked about all these problems, and you know, the solutions. Some of the solutions are prescribed in our laws. Some are prescribed even in our social norms, and we just need to highlight them. We just need to talk about them more in the places that they can be a lot more impactful. You know, and I always remember the Ebola crisis, and I always reflect on my own community, which is the Muslim community. Most of the people that die in Liberia, a significant number of those were Muslims, simply because we felt our clergymen were not doing what they were supposed to do in sensitizing the people, in talking to the people, telling them about the danger of washing your dead body and all that. You know, so these things can be very traumatic to people. And so we need to focus on our communities, so that, look, if the churches, the communities sensitize people and talk about these things the way that it's supposed to, it's going to help. But we also need to make sure that the rural areas, that the law enforcement in the rural area are, they have some of the basic resources, like vehicles or even communication equipment to be able to interconnect with one another. When I talk about the economic dynamic being changed, I wasn't trying to cut a slack from Ngafon. All I was trying to say here is that now he's operating in a different environment, different than what he first operated in. And so it's very simple. I think this is all one of the thing that they were supposed to be guiding against, because according to the audit, they were disbursing this fund outside the norm that is prescribed by the Ministry of Finance, and that was, they tried to justify it as they were saying, it was an archiving error or whatever. No, this wasn't. I mean, that it was obvious that that wasn't the case. But again, we just need to be consistent. By consistent, I mean we need to follow our own guidelines, that were laid out by our own government. So consistency and continuity, needs to be present in everything we do, so that we can avoid these little pitfalls that can have a massive impact on the Liberian people.
Thank you, Mr. Sharif, and then Jimmy will close us.
Yeah, so the national agenda is driven by the president. That's why you have one president at a time. You also have, let's not forget too, you have the legislature. And so the president should really make sure that, the administration is a well-oiled machine. The mindset has to change. We can't be an importing society to expect economic growth. We can't be a consumer society only to expect economic growth. There was a time that you have little industries popping up here and there. We grew up seeing those things, or the things that our parents told us. Where are those industries now? Where are the matching factories, and where is the sugar factory? Everything is gone. And so you have this country now that's really dependent, and they have this mindset. There's this mindset. Every time your foreign minister goes out, the foreign minister has her hand out. Well, please help us. We're poor. They go to Israel, they borrow. They go to China, they borrow. They go to Japan, they borrow from Japan. They borrow from India. They borrow from everybody. They borrow from, the African Development Bank. They borrow from the World Bank. They borrow from IMF. This is a borrowing society. You're not going to get anywhere if you don't quit borrowing this way. They borrow, right? Larry said it right. What they borrow to do? They borrow to enrich themselves. You're not going to get anywhere. And then it's laughable that our officials are better paid. When you add all the perks and everything, they're better paid than government officials in the United States. They earn more money. It's laughable. This country, these people say they are poor, but you are richer than the president of the United States, the Congress people the Congress people in the United States, in terms of monthly benefits and so on and so forth. You get more money than the president of the United States. How is that possible? You say you're a poor country. These are some of the contradictions.
You get more money except Trump.
What's that?
I say except Trump, because Trump man long.
You don't even know that, Dennis. You don't even, the money that goes around, the way these people fly around, the way they fly around, they're about to come here now for the United Nations, General Assembly. You're going to see a 30-man delegation.
We got 10 seconds left.
You're going to see a 30-member delegation coming over for what? The president can sit at home and deliver over Zoom. Save us some money. Save me the headache. I don't want to hear this. Okay? It's enough.
If they save the money, they'll stay eating that, bro.
You can put all of that in between, yeah. Jimmy,
Yeah, you know, I mean, everybody is been saying pretty much the same thing. Today, more than 70% of our budget is consumed by recurring expenses, wages,
Salary.
allowances, administrative costs. That means the lion's share of our resources is spent on keeping the government running, not on building schools, hospitals, roads, or industries that create jobs. If Liberia is to prosper, this must change. First, we must reform public spending, cutting waste, eliminating ghost names, and reducing bloated benefits. Second, we must prioritize investment, directing resources into agriculture, infrastructure, and energy that will expand our economy and feed our people. Third, we must grow revenue through fair taxation, stronger trade, and attracting responsible investment. Prosperity will not come if we maintain the status quo. I see we're doing what other past governments were just repeating the same thing again and again. It will only come when our budget stops serving the government alone and start serving the people. Every dollar must be measured by how it improves the life of ordinary Liberians. This is how we turn this cycle of consumption into a future productive growth and shared prosperity. We need to plug the holes where it's leaking, and then we will have a vibrant economy.
Thank you.
Well
On
said.
that note, we close with a song that says, "We are all Liberians." Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you. Glendy was here before. Thank you, Glendy, as well. And thank to our viewers. Always, we are all Liberians. We may have different ways to solving these problems, but we are all Liberians. Good night, and God bless you.
We are Liberians.
That was quick.
You ended the live stream, Dennis?
No. We are Liberians. Liberia is our home. Liberian people. Liberia.